This module will guide you through MT system base material connections to steel. The trapeze channels typically hang on threaded rods being fixed to structural steel either with unthreaded beam clamps or threaded beam clamps. The unthreaded beam clamp must be secured by 2 nuts. The threaded beam clamp can be secured by 1 nut only. All the other trapeze profiles are fixed using the same principles. The whole trapeze might be fixed by XBT or SBT studs and set of 2 couplers with 4 nuts. The MT20 and MT40T channels might be fixed by XBT or SBT studs for the back of the channel as head rails. Open channel connection to steel R3. Attached perpendicular channel. Attached parallel channel. And perpendicular connection of the channel to structural steel. Open channel profiles can be fixed perpendicularly by set of 2 MQT beam clamps. MQT beam clamps allow various rotations of MT40 and MT50 open profiles. Another solution is a pair of MQTC22F beam clamp for the back of the profile. The profile has to be cut to fit to the width of the I-beam. Very traditional solution is boxing the steel profile between 2 open profile channels tightened together by threaded rods. These solutions might be used for various connections like centric connection of the threaded rod using twist lock and square washer, or creating a connection base for perpendicular connections to structural steel profiles using base material connectors. Fixing parallel MT40 or MT50 profile can be done with a pair of MQTC21F beam clamps, 2 twist locks and 2 twist lock bolts. Also the single open channels can be used as head rails fixed by XBT and SBT studs for the back of the profile. XBT and SBT studs could be used for fixation of base material connector for perpendicular channel connections. Specific discipline is to bridge distance between structural steel girders. One of the most used options is MQTC23F beam clamp. This solution can be used with any of the open channels. Closed profiles require 2 basic solutions. Either profile directly attached to structural steel, or perpendicular connection of the closed profile to structural steel. Closed profile directly attached to the structural steel profile is typically fixed by pair of window beam clamps. There are 2 sizes of the beam clamps. MTBCG-STOC for profiles MT70 and MT80, and wider MTBCG-XL-TOC for profiles MT80, MT90 and MT100. 4 methods are used for perpendicular connections. Clamped connector. Connector boxed to structural steel. Connector fixed on XBT or SBT studs. Or channel fixed on starter bracket. The clamped solution relies on steel connector and 4 M16 beam clamps. The MT profile is then connected by set of thread-forming bolts into the connector. The steel connector has 4 slots for M16 which allow certain adjustability to different width of the structural steel flange. We have 3 sizes of the connector to cover the most spread structural steel profiles. MTBG-XLS1 covering flange width of 75 to 165 mm. MTBG-XLS2 covering flange width of 165 to 235 mm. And MTBG-XLS3 covering flange width of 235 to 305 mm. Second principle is boxing the structural steel profile. For boxed solution the same connectors are used as for clamping. The principle is that the same size of the backing plate is placed on top of the structural steel profile. Then the base plates are through bolted by M16 threaded rods quality 8.8 and tightened together by lock washers and M16 nuts. All 3 connectors are designed to accommodate MT80, MT90 and MT100 profiles. MT80 with 12 thread forming bolts. MT90 with 18 thread forming bolts. MT100 with 24 thread forming bolts. Boxing allows fixing to various structural steel profiles even without flange. One of the previously shown connectors, the smallest MTBG XLS1, has more holes in the base plate than just the slots. There are 6 holes ready for XBT or SBT M10 studs connections. The connector is fixed on XBT or SBT M12 studs preset on the structural steel profile, and the closed MT80, MT90 or MT100 profile is fixed by thread forming bolts. The last method is welded starter bracket on the structural steel, delivered as base painted ready for welding. It is a common practice, for example, in offshore industry. The starter bracket connector can be used for connection of any of the closed profiles. What to remember? There are 3 basic fixing methods to the structural steel: clamping, boxing, XBT and SBT studs. There are typically required solutions: attached channel to the structural steel, perpendicular connection to steel profiles. Boxing to structural steel helps when there is no flange available. Follow us on the next module called MT System Media Fixation.